What is up, beautiful traders? How you guys doing? I'm doing absolutely lovely, and we're out of the studio today, and I am so shy. I don't even know how to say recording in public. That's like my worst nightmare. My friend right behind the camera over there, she said that this is how horror stories start. So maybe if y'all don't see this video, you know that we got caught up in these woods. You know what Did you guys enjoy that weekly analysis? Because we sure had a beautiful week last week. This winning trade, that winning trade, and this winning trade right over here. And guess what? Weekends are for withdrawals, like I'm always telling you guys. We were out in the hoods and I found this beautiful horse. This is my new love. So I'm not going to abandon Nasdaq, of course, but then look at how beautiful this looks. I think I'm going back to visit on Saturday. You know, every weekend, I think this is probably where I want to find myself at. You know what I'm saying? So right now, we're just going to hop right straight to the weekly analysis. But before I do all of that good stuff, if you're new to the channel, welcome. We trade Nasdaq over here. If you're returning, welcome back. If you know what's up, don't forget to hit the like button, turn your post notifications, and subscribe to the channel. You know what I'm saying? Let's just look at our chart right over here. You can see that we had beautiful trades. We said that the market is going to be bullish, and as you can see from Monday throughout to Thursday, we only had bullish positions. The market was going right at the top. We were at this zone, and then we just kept breaking all these highs, right? So if you did watch the support and resistance video, if you watched the weekly analysis video, you were good checking out all these buying positions. And I just want to talk about how I ended up taking a loss on Monday right over here. You already know that I was preaching to you guys that the market is going to open with a gap, and it did open with a gap right over there, but I failed to trade the gap. You know what I'm saying? So first of all, as a trader, you're not supposed to have a dirty chart like this. You can already see that my chart does not look so clean. It's so dirty. So we're just going to start by deleting all of these unnecessary things so that you have the lines that you actually need. And let's get to talking about this trade right over here. So obviously, you know that if you're seeing a gap, I did say in that weekly analysis that if the market opens with the gap, it is going to have to close the gap. So look at what happened. We had a gap right over here, and the market closed the gap. If you notice, right, it did close the gap right over there. So this was the gap right here, and it failed to close it on Monday, right? But it closed the gap on Thursday, right? So like I said to you guys in the previous video, that if the market opens with the gap, if it doesn't close it on Monday, right, there's a high chance that it won't close the gap anytime soon. And it played out like that. It didn't close the gap on Monday, and then it closed it on Thursday. So if you are looking for selling positions hoping that it's going to close the gap, you are going to be in for trouble. This could have been a more confirmation for buying positions when it failed to close the gap on a Monday. We already know that it's not going to come back down anytime soon, right? So I did see all of this, and then I took a selling position right over there, and I was in good profits, as you can see right over here, right? This was the trade, and I had given it as a signal too. So we were in good profits. So I was having my first take profit right at this zone because I thought that the market would go down to close the gap, but it was like jokes on me, right? And then it just reversed right at this zone. It dropped right over here, and then it reversed. So I was not looking at the trade, you know, I was not looking at the trade to end up closing it. As soon as it reversed, you know, you would want to, you know, trade like, let's say bullish engulfing candles, but not this type of engulfing candlestick. You see, this is like more than just engulfing. This is like a whole candlestick, right? So obviously, you know that the big players did, you know, influence the market to move like this, and you know that a lot of other traders were seeing this gap over here. That is why it just reversed and took out a lot of, you know, limits and stop losses right over there. But then the rest of the week was absolutely lovely. We did have a gap again on Thursday, and you know, Wednesday closed off with the gap and opened on Thursday, right, with this gap over here. And I am always saying that if you take a loss, you know, like I took a loss on Monday, right, and then I saw the exact same setup, I'm not going to say no, just because I took a loss using the gap strategy, I see a gap again, I'm not going to take the trade. No, I'm going to take the exact same trade. You know, took a sell right over there to close the gap, because just because I took a loss, it doesn't influence the next trade I'm going to take again. And the rest of my trades were winning trades. I did drop in the free signal group the setup for this. You know, we had a gap over here, as you can see, like I told them, and then I said that the market is going to drop down to close out this gap, and then we are going to now look for buying positions as it comes to our bank zones over here. And that was an absolutely beautiful trade that we had, right? But enough of the weekly analysis. That was a very good week that we just had, and right now let's just talk about what we are looking for this current week, right? So obviously that we're going to start by looking at our economic calendar. As we can see that Monday is going to be a holiday, right? We have all day we have a holiday in the United States, but then the markets are probably not even going to open, or will have little to no movement at all. And then on Tuesday throughout to Friday, we don't really have exciting news right over there, so it's nothing to write home about. Back to our chart on Nasdaq, as you can see that we are still trading the highs. If we go on to our daily time frame, we can see that we did have a new high right over here. This market, I see it pushing to 19,000. We already have US30 at 40,000 right over there. You see we had 40,000 on US30, and it currently is dropping down. So Nasdaq will probably want to do that whole figure thingy, and then hits 19,000 and then drops down again. But then obviously we are on an uptrend as usual. So when you are trying to grow a small account, you obviously want to trade on a smaller time frame, right? But then the trend on the larger time frame is always going to guide you, right? And then we can see that the market has little weeks right over there. So just because that we are on an uptrend, you already know that you're going to be looking for buying positions. And this is a very wrong trend line that I drew. You want to always draw your trend line from this week to the next week that it had, right? So if you do this, it's going to take longer time for it to come and react. You'll probably miss all the trades. So you want to draw it like this right over there, right? And then you see that this makes sense from this week, and then everything else would be false breakouts, right? And then you can see that the market did come to this zone, and then it rejected. It had a little build up over there, rejected with a bullish engulfing candlestick, and that it's now trying to go and retest the highs once again, right? So if we go on to our lower time frames, it means that we already know that the direction of the market is going to be bullish, right? So we were focusing on what is currently happening right over there. And then we can see that we do have a zone right over here, right? We do have a zone right over there. And the other thing that you should take note of is the bank zone. This is called a bank zone that we have over here, right? So you already know that the market either will reject at this zone, which is already doing, but that a rejection that looks like a build up over here is kind of a tricky rejection, right? You always want to be careful for these types. You have to wait for like a pin back handle, an evening star, or an engulfing, right? Or a breakout would even be better, or to wait for it to come down to the next bank zone, and then you go in for your buying positions right over there, right? So basically one and the same thing that we always say when we are analyzing Nasdaq, that we want to see the market breaking out of our zones, closing outside of those zones, and then we ride it to the top. Now, if you're trading a small account, you already know that if it breaks down right at the zone, the first thing that you have to do is to go on a much lower time frame, right? You go on a much lower time frame. This is a nice build up right over here. You want to wait for it to break down, and then you know that the next target that the market is going to be the next full candle that it formed, which is right over there. You already know that if you're putting a lot of entries right here, you're riding it to the next zone. You won't ride it to 19,000, right? But then if you wait for it to go down to the bottom, you already know that you're waiting for a rejection at the bank zone over here, which would be really tricky because every single person in this world will be looking for a buying position at the zone. There is a high chance that the market will break out of it to go right to the bottom, right? So we know that we are going to be looking for buying positions right after the breakouts, right? And then also taking our profits right at this zone, because we do have another bank zone here. So we know that if we are going to hold, we put our stop loss in the entry and then hold after a breakout, right? If we see a rejection, we are already riding the trade down. So this week has a lot of opportunities. For the mere fact that there is no news, we are going to be having smooth market conditions because nothing will be disturbing the market for too long. So if you're trading, like I said, on the small accounts, right, we're also going to be looking at our trend lines right over here. These type of trend lines that are at zones that everyone else has their eyes on, there's a high chance that they will be broken, right? So you always want to be careful when you are trading at this particular zone right over here, right? Overall, you know that we are going to wait for the breaks right to the top, and then, maybe, look out for this zone, maybe getting broken out and then going down to the bottom, because you still know that regardless of us going to the top like that, we have a zone right over there, right? So this zone would be, you know, a breakout that it had, and then the market coming back to retest that zone. Before you rush in for the selling positions, you need to keep that in mind, right? But with that said and done, you already know, as usual, the only thing you need to do as a trader is to use proper risk management on every single trade that you have, and then everything else will follow. But if you did enjoy that weekly analysis, don't forget to hit the like button, turn your post notifications, and subscribe to the channel. You feel me? With that, it's been Tino, and I'm out. Peace.